Good morning, Dan and Amy. Mark Stein on Fox and Friends yesterday. He made an important point about symbols and how Islamists understand the importance of symbols. Maybe we don't so much. London Bridge being more than just a bridge.
I think that's actually a very good example, Ainsley, because they understand the symbolic power of it in a way that we don't. They understand that London Bridge isn't just some bridge across some crummy, dirty, muddy river. Right. It has symbolic power in the same way that, in a different sense, the Ariana Grande thing does. And they're serious. They've declared war on us. And we keep saying, no, you can declare war on us all you like. We're not treating it as a war.
Yeah, although from what Prime Minister Theresa May said on Sunday, maybe England is going to change their approach and treat it like there is this war. Now, just because they understand the power of symbols, of course, think the World Trade Center, doesn't mean that we can just protect iconic places and you won't have terrorist attacks, as we've seen Orlando nightclub, San Bernardino,
Soft
office
targets,
party,
yeah.
The Nice market, et cetera. So there's just no simple solution to this. And some of what's been proposed from an American perspective, a bit concerning, from Theresa May's suggestion of greater regulation of the internet to Nigel Farage suggesting over the weekend, not that he's necessarily a proponent of it, but it wasn't a vociferous rejection, the idea that if England doesn't get more serious about it, you're going to hear public calls for the internment of the 3,000 Muslims who are on the watch list in England. That's going down a dark road for me. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by our friend Bill Gertz, senior editor for the Washington Free Beacon and author of the book War and Peace in the Information Age. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Good to be on the show.
So let's start with kind of jumping off from some of the themes in your book, War. Theresa May's call for more stringent regulation of the internet, perhaps not only regulating particular sites, working with or trying to impose their will on the Googles and the Facebooks, but going after pornographic sites that terrorists use as kind of a cover for communicating about terrorist activity, as well as even suggesting that providers, ISPs, push out counter-terrorism content that the government creates. From an American perspective, this concerns me greatly.
Yeah, well, this is a huge problem, and I outlined that in Iowa. We need to attack the ideology, and right now, the Trump trip to Saudi Arabia, we basically farmed that out to the Saudis, and they have a different strain of jihadism. It's not as violent as the ISIS and Al-Qaeda group, but I think it's time for debate. I think we really need to have a debate about how to deal with this problem. It's a religious problem. We're trying to pretend it's not a religious problem. It's cutting in the seams of our society where we allow free speech and freedom of religion, and the terrorists are exploiting it. So we need to figure out a way to go at this problem from the ideological standpoint. I think that's what these three attacks in 2 months show in London.
Well, what about, one of the three London terrorists, he was on a reality TV show, The Jihadist Next Door, and he was a proponent of Sharia law, and he even got kicked out of his mosque. So
it's unbelievable. I mean, there was intelligence. Both MI5, the domestic spy service, and Scotland Yard had this guy on their radar, and they were ill-equipped under the laws and even under intelligence mandates to deal with the threat. I mean, you had this guy in a documentary bowing to the jihadist black flag of ISIS. In the FBI, they used to call that a clue.
Let's put this in an American context. If that terrorist, Amy was just describing, if he had done all of that on American soil and was here as legally, was in this country legally, what could and should law enforcement do to prevent him from doing what he ultimately did in London?
That's a good question, because right now we have laws that protect free speech and freedom of religion, and until someone commits a violent act, we can't take action against them. So that's what I'm saying. We need a debate to figure out how to deal with this problem. If the Muslim community, which is dealing with these extremists within their community, is not going to do it, then we have to figure out a new way to approach the problem. Because, it did happen here in the Orlando shooting and the San Bernardino attacks. They were on the radar of local authorities and the FBI, and we were unable to prevent them from taking that deadly step of killing all of those people.
What do you think of President Trump kind of, having a Twitter war with Mayor Khan, the first Muslim mayor in London, it's saying, starting by saying there's no reason to be alarmed?
Yeah, the president he's out there on Twitter, and that's his vehicle of choice to get his message out. In fact, he sent out a tweet today defending his ability to circumvent what he considers the fake media to get his message out there. So he's obviously trying to tackle this issue based on his immigration policies. He's promoting his ban on people coming from terrorist-related countries. So that's probably what's behind that, I think.
Is there, we talked to David French earlier in the show, and he suggested that part of the failure generally is we're not essentially being more aggressive militarily with respect to ISIS and other elements of radical Islamic terror. Is that an opinion you share?
No, actually, the reports I'm getting is that we are getting ready. We're squeezing ISIS in both Iraq and Syria, and that's creating leakage. They're starting to set up networks into Europe, support networks, to be able to do more of these kinds of attacks that we saw in London. So, but overall, it's not. There's not a military solution to the problem. We'll be able to kick ISIS out of its key strongholds of Raqqa and Mosul. It's taking a long time because of the local forces having problems, but ultimately it's going to be an ideological solution. We've got to attack the ideology in a serious way, just like we did during the Cold War against communism. The Reagan administration had the tools. We can adapt those to attack Islamic extremism the way that the Reagan administration went after Soviet communism.
Let me ask you this question about an asset that we still have. It's called Gitmo, but it's not just a physical location, it's an approach to this. So thinking about the terrorist that was in that documentary and is also connected to a radical imam out of Dearborn, Michigan, as well as connected to associates of the 7/7, one of the 7/7 bombers. Can we designate these individuals as enemy combatants and hold them under those auspices?
Yeah, that's a tough problem. I was never a fan of Gitmo. Under our system, we just don't have the ability to do that, and it's just it just creates opposition and division within our society. They need to figure out a different method to do that. If it's war, these are combatants. Then you deal with them as a war. If it's something less than war, then you have to deal with the legal issues. So, I don't have a good solution for what to do about Gitmo, but under our system, it's not a good thing.
Now, yesterday afternoon, we learned that a contractor has been charged with leaking classified NSA information on Russian hacking. What do you know about this case?
Well, I saw the report in The Intercept. It's clear that this online outlet, which was set up after the Edward Snowden disclosures of NSA, got this document and took it to the NSA or an NSA contractor, and they were able to trace the origin of the document. My question is, the CIA director a couple of months ago gave a speech where he described some of these groups as similar to hostile intelligence services. In other words, they send agents out to join organizations. My question is, could this 25-year-old woman who was arrested in Augusta, Georgia, have been dispatched by The Intercept to try to penetrate the NSA and get this kind of material? I guess we'll have to wait till that story unfolds further.
We spoke with Congressman Sean Duffy from Wisconsin earlier in the show, and his reaction to Miss Winner's arrest was finally seeming to indicate, we've been talking about leaks coming from the intelligence community, illegally disseminating classified information. Boy, they happened upon Miss Winner very quickly. Is there more that could and should be done to plug other leaks within the intelligence community?
Well, as a reporter, I make my living off of leaks, so
Right.
I'm not a big proponent of going after these people. However, I think it's reached dangerous levels with a lot of the anti-Trump disclosures that have come out, specifically about our communications intelligence. That's kind of what the House Intelligence Committee is zeroing in on. They just issued subpoenas. Half of them were for the Russia investigation, and the other half were to look at who ordered the unmasking of Americans captured in highly classified communications intercepts. And those three people were John Brennan, the former CIA director, Susan Rice, the former national security advisor, and a new name, Samantha Power, the former UN ambassador. So clearly they're zeroing in on some of these Obama people who may have leaked sensitive information as part of some type of political spying operation.
All right. He is Bill Gertz, senior editor for the Washington Free Beacon, author of the book I War and Peace in the Information Age. Bill, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Great. Thanks very much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you